Today in the messy fish room, we're gonna build an automatic egg trap that should just run on autopilot. Last week we got one of the coolest fish species ever in my opinion, the rainbow shiner, and this time we got some that have some phenomenal genetics. So they have the blues, they have the pinks, they're incredible. For a species that originates from North America, this I think has to be one of the most colorful fish, and I'm super stoked to actually breed these guys. But the problem was that we added them to a pond where it's gonna be tough to A, see them because they have so many hiding places, and B, they don't really have the right setup to collect the eggs. Rainbow shiners, unlike rice fish, but kind of like most all other fish that we mess around with in this hobby, they're egg scatterers. So similar to golden white cloud minnows, similar to celestial pearl danios. The fish breeds, the female just blasts out her eggs into either a specific area of the tank or just kind of ultimately all over the place. And so what we're gonna try and do is create this little device. We're gonna engineer something that's really cool that should hopefully collect those eggs for us, and then we basically don't have to do any work. Of course, beyond like setting the whole thing up, it's ended up being a little precarious, and then doing all the other fish things that we have to do. Not to mention the work that you will inevitably have to do when you have a ton of fish, which hopefully we're gonna have. Not in this video, but you'll get the whole gist of how to do this if you wanna learn how. But I have a literal ton of things to get done today. So the first thing we wanna do before we get to the trap is get the 2 tanks on the bottom shelf ready for fish. But I figured we should probably just put frosted backgrounds on these tanks because why not? I have it and it looks kind of nice. So that was a little bit of a process, super annoying to peel the screen to get it ready. But once you get that on, you just spray a little bit of water and then you credit card scrape it. Pretty straightforward. Then just trim it with a razor blade and then you have a really nice, cool looking frosted background. Somehow in like my decade plus, like I don't even know how long, 14 years maybe of doing this, I've never had this hook and it's awesome. Like duh, it's awesome. It's not something that nobody knows about. I'm sure most of you even have this setup, the Python with the hook and the everything, you know, that we have here. I feel kind of extra fancy having this, like it's weird. I do need to make some kind of thing, I think kind of similar to what we did with this guy, how we put a little bit of the mesh intake over there to protect the fish. I think we might do that for the output of this, just to help not have this happen. But yeah, this week I actually spent some time doing things to the fish room. So went through, did a bunch of the lights, got everything nice and tucked away in like the cracks of the gladiator rack. I don't know, you probably can't see that. Let me show you a little bit more. I don't know. I think you pretty much get it. Like, everything's tucked away. I can adjust things as I see fit on the different racks, and it's just, I've been needing to do that for super long, so that made me feel good. I still gotta run a couple lines, like we do wanna have air down to this tank. I'm just trying to figure out if I wanna have something hanging down over the middle, because the idea is to eventually have some kind of a display tank up here, hopefully. I might just tie into the spot over here that is connected to these guys. Decisions, but we do need to chlorinate the tank. Of course, we're using the Fritz Pond Guard. Let's see if I can do this one-handed here. I cheated, I had help from my other hand, but oh, we don't have a little, we got just a little tiny bit. 20 gallons, that's probably a gap, right? This stuff's really old. I need to get some new stuff from Fritz. I think we need bacteria, we need some other things too, but the dechlorinator should be fine for probably forever. I've never had a problem with it being super old and still using it. So to all those old bottles out there, I think they probably still have a lot of life in them. I already put some Sylvinia in this tank just because I was cleaning up the big one yesterday. As far as doing this tank, I'm out of sand and I want to match, so we're gonna have to wait on that. I don't think it's gonna matter with our contraption and just the breeding setup in general here that we have substrate or not. Kind of explain a little bit more on that later. I just thought that, I mean, sand is sand, like why not? The only other thing that I need to figure out, or I guess make a decision on, is how high I want the water level to be. In a perfect world, because the rainbow shiners are jumpers, I would leave it low, like I might even stop it right here. But because we're gonna have that overflow box and we're gonna have another, well, I guess I shouldn't spoil it, but we're gonna have a contraption in here that's gonna pour water back in. The water level might matter, but it also might not. I know that probably doesn't make sense. It barely makes sense to me, but I think I'll probably stop it right here. I'll go turn that off really quick before the hose explodes. And I guess we'll now just drill a line for some air. And actually for this, I do need a splitter because I don't have just like a two-way thing. All I have is male to male and then like something like this. But we only need one of these, and the reason is because we want to power an air sponge filter, and we also need to have the thing that we're making be air powered as well. So I think I already made some cuts here, but I think we're gonna take this guy off, put him in here. We can hang him, and then we have this extra one. Well, we want to be able to, doing the math here, yeah, I think that could work. We can just cut this in half. We should still have plenty of airline to work with. We're just gonna have one of these guys open. Make sure that's okay. And then yeah, we do need one more, but we'll just try and match the flow here. See if that works. Okay, now let's go make the thing. Can you tell it's summer? I am a weirdo. Okay, so here is the setup for the egg trap. So it's two things. Let me move some stuff. The first one is this aqua nursery, and it comes with two things. We really only want one of the things. And then we just have this fluval breeder box, and that thing looks like this. You have everything you need. Basically, the only extra thing that you need to make this whole thing that we're making is a piece of tubing. And so I was lucky enough to have the right diameter, and we're gonna shave this to make it the right size once we get it into the fish room. This aqua nursery is set up like, it looks like it's just for live bearers. So the piece that it comes with in the bottom just has a slit. So small baby fish gets born. The air that you eventually plug into this then sucks the baby fish out, and it puts it into this other little compartment that we're not using. What we're gonna do is modify this to pump up to the breeder box. Before we start making this thing, just gotta say, I did not come up with this. Obviously, the aqua nursery and the breeder box have been a thing that people have used for forever. The modification kind of to it, it was something that I saw a few months ago on Sydney's Angels YouTube channel. I'll put a link for that video so you can go check it out and see it with actual little baby fish being born. But that's what gave me the whole idea to do this thing. And originally I was thinking like, hey, this is gonna be perfect for the white cloud minnows because they're also egg scatterers. And I think we're still probably gonna do that too. But with the rainbow shiners specifically, this is perfect for them. So we're basically just copying that video. The only other thing, what did I say? There was only one thing you needed. You do need to kind of create a little bit of a false bottom to cover this part. And so this is just that mesh, plastic mesh stuff. I cut it, and then if you really wanted to get fancy and make this a permanent thing, you could hot glue it or silicone it over the top. I might do that, but I think I'm gonna be able to get away with not having to do that because we're not using moss here. We're using basically round stones. That's what the rainbow shiners like to breed into. But you have basically everything you need. This little plastic tube comes with this setup. We're gonna use this sort of in a hybrid way to attach to the breeder box. So all we need to do, like, just snap it together, put this piece in, get it in the right spot, take our mesh, put it on top. Try not to, okay. There we go. Okay, and that's pretty much it. This piece also came with this unit. Connect the two, our air is gonna go here, it's gonna pump up, and this is a terrible camera angle. So let's go move some of this stuff into the fish room. Let's check in on our shiners. They are actually out and about doing stuff. I just saw a couple of the colored ones. There they are. But yeah, I mean, super hidey. If I make the wrong move, they'll all dart and go disappear. They've done pretty well in this setup over the last week. We got the co-op sponge filter and the battery-powered pump running, and I just let this run all day and then unplug it, go charge it up at night. So lasts all day. I think it can last like almost 2 days. Flow isn't super great. I think we're going to transition this once we kind of finalize things to a more stable setup for the air, and that's going to include having to use some of these to keep our extension cords nice and tidy and not wet. I also want to do a little bit of work on some other things today, but the main priority is to get most of these fish, or at least half of them, out of here. I'm not experienced enough with these fish to really know how to sex them that well. I kind of assumed that the ones that had most of the blue color would be the males, but I've learned since then that that's not always the case. The females still can have some of that color, and they can look pretty similar. The only way to actually tell the difference is to really see the males color up when they're in their breeding mode. There could be some other tells, but that's the main one that people talk about. So I think we're just gonna shotgun it, and we're gonna take like half of them out and move them into the tank inside. It's still a mess, you saw from that little shot walking in here, but it's a heck of a lot better. It's way more organized, I promise. So this little guy is gonna get submerged in here. Hopefully nothing moves around too much. Of course, it's, I don't know if there's a way that you can fix this green thing, but I don't think we're gonna have a problem once we get it in here. Okay, well this floats. Again, we're gonna have rocks on top of it, so I don't think it matters, but definitely fixing this to the green thing would have been a good idea. And we want this thing to sit pretty much low at the substrate level. We do have to connect our air down here at the bottom, which we can run under the sand. That's no big deal. With the weight of the rocks, I think it'll be fine. I do wish this thing came with like some suction cups. It probably did, and I just didn't see them. Just gonna use my nice little handful of river rocks. This should be all that we need, and it should just hold it in place perfectly as long as I don't mess with it too much. Oh my God, this thing is super annoying. I might just glue the green thing to the box that it's in so I don't have to mess with that, but this is my new strategy. Just put rocks in it, hold it down. Let's attach some air too before I forget. Kind of a fragile little thing, but it should do what we want it to do. And we should probably flip it around so we can get closer to the breeder box, because I think I'm just gonna put it in this corner. That way we can see everything nice and good. Slide this guy over, and because this is a rimless tank, like we're gonna have to find something to prop this up with. Could just use a piece of tubing, or maybe the cap to the Fritz glass cleaner. How perfect is that? Ignore this annoying black airline tubing, but now we just need to connect where the bubbles are to this little input of the breeder box. And it's cool because this piece comes with this, and everything seems to just link together perfectly. Like, I don't know if it was actually designed this way, but this that came with this thing just plugs into that perfect, and then we just space it out with a little piece of tubing. Okay, it almost fits perfectly, but close enough. So this is where we're at so far. The breeder box slowly filling up. We could add a little bit more air here to kind of speed it up if we wanted to. Is that the right direction? So we don't want this to overshoot. Where's my little piece? We'll find a better thing to put here, but in the meantime, we just want to try and keep this as level as possible because it has to spill back into the tank, right? So the theory is the rainbow shiners will come over here. They are attracted to the rock pile type of environment. That's where they'll do their breeding. The females will blast their eggs, and hopefully, because it isn't just a false bottom, there's actually suction here. A lot of the eggs that would just bounce off the rocks or fly up into the air and get eaten by the fish are just pulled down, and we get a better yield than we would if we had a different setup. That's the theory, at least. And to prevent anything from spilling back into the tank, whether that's eggs or small fish, we'll probably just cover this up with a little bit of filter media. That way we still get good flow. We gotta kind of be concerned about this and making sure that that doesn't get plugged up, right? Because we don't want this to overflow the tank. That's essentially the whole thing. If we do this right, then we should end up with, in just a matter of weeks, a little fish. Like, obviously we'll see eggs in here first, but we can keep small fish in here with new eggs. Hopefully that's happening most days. I don't think the rainbow shiners are like rice fish in that they breed every single day, but maybe if we can get the right conditions here, they will. It might not be the prettiest setup in the world, right? Like, we're not trying to win any awards here with the aquascape, but I think it's gonna serve the purpose that we want, which is to get way more of these super awesome fish that I love so much, and it'll be a good opportunity to be able to see them more, right? Like, the pond setting is cool, but because they have so many hiding places, it's kind of tough to observe their beauty, which hopefully we'll be able to do in here just fine. Let's test this out and see how well like the suction is happening down here. I have I don't know if you can tell, a little bit of fish waste in my fingies. Let's see if get out of here, Sylvania. Let's see if this actually, like if I let go of this stuff, role-playing eggs here, I mean, it's so lightweight, that didn't exactly work. Like this stuff, that's not good. I would just pull off like some rice fish eggs from a mop and use those, but I kind of don't even want to try that. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. It works. I mean, I saw it a million times on camera. Like the Sydney's Angel video just shows the entire process. So go watch that if you're super curious or you don't believe me that this is gonna work. I don't blame you if you don't, because it is kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, in theory, like the eggs do way more and they're gonna fall down. And I think this is gonna work good. The only other way to do this would be to basically do the same exact thing, have a basket with a false bottom, and then just rely solely on having to pull the bucket in and out of the tank to collect the eggs. This way, hopefully we don't have to do that part, and we can raise up the fish in a little area for a while too, which I think just makes sense. It's cool. But yeah, let's go get the fish and let's get them in here before it gets too hot out there. There's 12 fish in here, I swear. We're definitely gonna need to take all of this hardscape out if we want to collect these fish, because again, they love to hide. I don't know what it is about them, but there's gotta be a happy medium for a pond like this to where they're happy and that you can actually see them. So it's kind of, I mean, if you sneak up on the pond, you can see them from time to time when they're out, but definitely during the middle of the day here when it's hot, they go down to the bottom to cool off, which, you know, hey, I'm not gonna knock them for trying to survive. But still, there's gotta be some way. They're just too beautiful to not be observed as much as possible. They're too smart for me too. They didn't wanna just follow my hand into the net, so gonna actually have to take everything out of here. Try not to get the water too cloudy. I guess we're gonna do this one at a time. The real question is, do we have what we need here with just these 4 fish? So it's impossible to say from this angle and from me being the one that's doing it, like, is that a male? And is that a male? And is this big one a female? I'm not sure. I would guess. But like this fish over here, not sure. Could be a male that just hasn't developed the blue colors yet. We might have to pull a couple more fish. I think maybe we'll grab one more like slightly more dull fish, and then maybe we'll have 2 males, 3 females. I don't think the ratio really matters too much. It's just a matter of like having a few in there that can do the job and then keeping a couple out here just to see what happens. Got a few more fish, and I think we're gonna have to let them temp acclimate just a little bit in here, because water out there, 83, water in here, 70. Like, it's always a little bit cooler down here on the lower shelf. But these fish, you know, we don't want them to be in here for too much longer. They are freaking out. See if we can get a little color check on these guys. Lighting in here is not good. Can't wait till we get them up here in the tank though. I won't speculate on the gender of these fish till we get them into the light, but I think we have 3 males and then 4 females is what I ended up grabbing, or maybe 1, 2, 3. It might be 3 and 3 actually, so that would be perfect. I think that would be cool. We obviously didn't get to go through and look at all the fish. It probably is a better idea to take all of them in here and then select which ones are the best looking that we want to keep in here. And maybe I'll do that another day. I want to move on to some other stuff while we wait for these guys. Oh, and I need to get an actual sponge filter going in this tank. I guess we could just do this. Sometimes you gotta think a little bit more before you start, right? Like, I think that's a male, but I could be wrong. Zooming over here to fish that are gonna be too far away, it's too cloudy. I think there might be another fish that looks like that. And then another one. So 3 guys, hopefully they're guys, that look like this. It's only possible to know if it's a male if it like gets really pink compared to the females, but I've seen other females that actually look pink too. So the only thing I have to go off of here is I don't know anything about dorsal fins or anal fins or whatever that could distinguish the sex, or the spacing between the fins, right? I'm just going off of coloration and then pure size. So there's a couple of big, hopefully they're big ladies in the back. So much more to learn about these fish, but that's the fun part, right? So at least this is for me. That's kind of where I'm at with all of this. Maybe we pull in those other fish and then we just go through and pick out the ones that look the best, and then take the ones that don't look quite as good. They all look good, but take the ones that don't look quite as good and then put them back out there. So yeah, we'll just wait for these guys to kind of chill and get temperature acclimated, and we'll put them in a sec. First thing we need to do is feed all the ponds, because filming this video, I forgot to do that this morning. I'm out of legit nano just like you might be, so I'm feeding this stuff, which is, can't pronounce any of this on the bag or the back, but it's a Hikari food. It's like 55%, 51% protein. And I just thought it was cool packaging. Like, I'm susceptible to that stuff too. So in the meantime, while we wait for that good stuff, we will feed this, and we'll try and hit everybody who didn't get any. Still waiting for the Yokozuras to do anything with, egg-wise. Sometimes it takes a while. They're still getting used to the temperature and everything outside. We'll give our old kind of duller rainbow shiners a little bit of feed. And it'll take a pinch and run over to the other side. We don't have anything in this pond yet, but maybe that'll change today. Need to do a little bit more trimming here on the water celery. I don't know if you caught that in the last pond, just looking at the little starts that I cut off. This is a plant that, I don't know, maybe it's not super happy over here, but a lot of the bottom portions have been dying off. But all in all, this pond is looking pretty good, I'd say. Forget about our kois up here in the front. They are, I think they're doing something. Last time I checked, yeah, there's a couple eggs, not a ton, but good to know we still have a female left. One of the fish in here looks kind of weird. Didn't always look that way. Not sure if that was just an age thing. Some of these fish are probably getting a little bit older, so not sure if they're gonna last much longer than this season. We still need to mix them with the juveniles that we got from them last year. And then hopefully that's when we start to really see the numbers of the rice fish increase, because mixing the progeny with their parents, yeah, I mean, it's what you have to do sometimes. But that should really increase just the amount of eggs that we get from every single rice fish pond. Oh, and before I go outside, I might as well just show you this thing. How many people remember this pond that we set up last year? Like, it was the experiment to see if we could grow it with the power of the sun, right? Because it's right here by this window. All winter long, basically just didn't do much. It's obviously where our white cloud minnows are. The plants, I mean, there's dwarf hairgrass in there. It never really rooted that much. Whenever I'd get in here and siphon water out, I'd always pull a few plugs out. The sword, same kind of deal. Like, it put out a couple new leaves, but that was pretty much it. And look at how much my life is in shambles. Like, I just have pretty fresh, like, tissue cultures of plants in here. Hair grass. I think that's dwarf sage. Like, they need to go somewhere. And these fish need to go somewhere. I'm thinking maybe we just put them back in that pond out there, but I don't know. It's hard to make a decision these days. So many ponds, so many fish now. I can't pick. So of course I changed my mind, and we got all of the rainbow shiners now going into the tank. This is probably what I should have done all along in the beginning. Like, I don't know, I'm figuring things out as I go. But this is probably the move here, just to be able to observe all of the fish that we got. Like I've said before, I'm sure that most of these are gonna be good and ones that I want to breed, but at least this way we'll be able to observe them better. They're all temperature acclimated and ready to go. I've turned this thing up just to make sure it's ready to go, and I was thinking that we'd have to kind of improvise here to prevent any kind of dripping, but the breeder box kit does come with this thing, which I'm assuming is essentially a 90, and that's gonna stop that from being a potential problem. Still could overflow. We always have to be on the lookout for that and maintaining our sponge here, but that should help the splashes. And with that being said, I mean, these guys have been sitting here for a super long time. They're definitely all temperature acclimated and ready to go. I'm just trying to not get any of the whatever aqua soil stuff is down here. I don't know how that got in there, but time for 2 hands. I think we're just gonna add the water that they were in into the new tank. Won't hurt any, and it will probably be beneficial for the whole thing. Even though it's only a week old, like it has a lot more microbial activity than this thing that we just set up. Can you guys swim out? Can you figure it out? Can you see that? Swim out, my dudes. They are very slow to figure out they have a whole tank they could go chill in. Come on, guys. You're making me drip too much aqua soil. Okay. We'll just do one of these. It's like it never happened, right? I think we might put some plants into this aquarium at some point. Like, I have some dwarf sage and some hairgrass, you guys saw it earlier, that we could use to plant this. I don't think that's gonna hinder the breeding process or anything. They should just be attracted to the rocks in this aquarium. Even if there's other stuff, like, it's something in their biology, in their little fish brains, they're like, hey, that's a little pile of rocks, that's where I do my business. So, like I've seen before, like the fish that are ready to breed will kind of congregate in that area and they'll just sort of swarm it, and other fish that aren't will kind of hang back. It's kind of an interesting behavior, but obviously right now they're not gonna do it because they just got in here, they're freaking out. But man, right off the bat, like seeing them from the side is just so cool. Obviously from the top down, they look very impressive when you see the tops of their finnage and the blue, you know, particularly the blue fish, or the fish that have blue on them. They're just very, very cool to watch. But seeing them from a side profile gives a whole new vibe to the fish. Hopefully this way we can actually identify and learn to identify the difference between male and female and get pretty good at it. Hopefully my theories so far are accurate, and the fish that I think are males and that I think are females is right, but I guess you never know. Like looking at that big one in the back, pretty confident that's a female, and the fish right next to her, like that grouping of 3, I don't know, that little one in the front might still be a male that just hasn't colored up yet. It's hard to tell. I think the only things that we really need to do is just make sure that they're getting fed a lot of food. So high protein, high fat, legit fish food's great for that. As far as temperature and light duration goes, I'm not sure if light duration is a huge one. I think it kind of has to be though, right? In my research so far online, I haven't seen anything talk about light exposure, but I'm assuming it's as long as it's more than 12 hours, they have a mental cue to breed, but then also temperature. So these are a cold tolerant fish. They do like to chill in the mid 60s, low 70s, but given that the breeding season is definitely gonna be a little bit warmer, I think we're probably gonna end up putting a heater in here and just run it at like 78, 79, 80. I think that's probably the move, especially since they're used to that with the fluctuation in the temperature outside. I don't think they're gonna mind just being at like 79, 80. And this room is hot. Like if I look up at the top tank where I have the temperature reading, it says it's 82 in here, but down here a little bit lower, it is a little cooler. So that tank is like 73 when it gets warm in here. So a heater will be important for the whole process, I think. Who knows, maybe these guys will still just breed in 72, 73 degree water, but we wanna make sure that we are optimizing everything so we can get as many of these fish as possible because they are so cool. Got the sponge filter all hooked up with the little jet flow top thing to give more aeration and a little bit of flow in the tank, which is nice. So they should appreciate that. They got a little bit more water volume. So they should be good to go. I mean, not much else to do other than to come in here and hang out with them and feed them a lot of food. But beyond that, there are still a few other things that I wanted to get done today. We're slowly running out of daylight. What am I talking about? It's like 4 o'clock. I forget that it's summer and it's light for forever. I think it's time we get our minnows out of here and into their old pond home. I know it's been a while. Do I have a light in here? That probably didn't help. I think it's a good time to do it just because the pond is in the shade and the temperatures are probably pretty close. I did like a little 50-50 mix of the water that they're in and the water from the pond, even though the water chemistry should be basically the same. These fish are a lot easier to net up compared to those rainbow shiners. It's crazy how fast those fish are, but these guys, it's like they want to get caught. And I think we're probably just gonna put all of them in And then we'll maybe try and select a few. We'll take them into the fish room for some breeding, maybe. Like, I don't know, I like these fish, but I kind of also just like the method of like getting lucky and finding little fry that survive in that really planted pond. You end up not getting as many, of course, but it's still kind of a fun process. It's like a little treat when you end up saving a couple babies. These little collection cup things are super clutch, mostly because they just have this lip that you can hang onto anything. So hopefully the super old AC isn't too loud, but we'll just hang these guys on here for just a few minutes. I don't think anybody's gonna jump out of that. Let them get used to the outside and then we'll dump them in. And I forgot to film it because I was doing it on my phone, but yeah, all the fish, they're in their old home. Hopefully some of them remember how cool this place was, and hopefully we can collect a few babies over this season. You never know. Let's go check on our rainbow shiners one more time. It's so interesting how these fish just seem like they're more comfortable in a tank compared to a pond that you would think would seem like it was more secure. I don't know, especially compared to the last one. Like this, they don't have any place to hide, yet they are behaving so much better. I don't know, to me at least, right? But if we look through here, like, I'm already trying to figure out, okay, how many males, how many females. I think it might be kind of split. This non-colored up fish, I think, is a male that just hasn't developed any colors. So if that's a male, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These fish are hard to count, but I think it might be pretty evenly divided between the sexes, which is good for me, I guess, but I could probably be wrong about what's going on here. Still a lot to figure out, but this probably isn't the most effective way to do it, like just having them all in here able to breed. If I was smart enough to be able to divide out the females from the males and then really feed up the females heavy, and then mix them together when I want them to breed, that would probably be the best way to do it. I don't know how much more competitive they are going to be for food compared to each other, but I think that's generally what a lot of people might do with these types of fish. But we're just gonna kind of chill. We're gonna learn as we go here. Sorry I couldn't show you guys the whole process of the eggs being deposited and brought up the lift and into the chamber and like everything else. Like I said, that video from Sydney's Angels will show everything regarding this if that's what you are most interested in. Definitely go check that out. But we'll see what happens. Like, I'll have a full report for you, hopefully in a few weeks, maybe. Kind of hard to say. Like, I'm just not sure. I'm swimming in uncharted territories right now, but that's the fun part, right? There's still so much more to do in this fish room, but we're making progress. I need to get the dehumidifier turned back on because it is really gross in here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you in the next video. We'll see you next week.